Hello, this is Court Watch with Alex Swoyer, and I'm excited to bring you the latest episode of my podcast, where I am joined by Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr. His state is fighting to enforce SB 185, which bans taxpayer funds from going to sex change interventions in the prison system. A Biden-appointed judge ruled last year against the state after a group of prisoners challenged the state measure. They argued that it violated the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. The case is now pending on appeal at the 11th Circuit. Attorney General Carr, thank you so much for taking time to answer some of our questions about this very interesting case you are working on. First, can we kind of go through what SB 185 prohibits? Is it only surgeries, or is there also a hormone treatment? What all does it prohibit? And legally, why the state should be able to really enforce its own law?
Yeah, it basically prohibits taxpayer dollars going to transgendered surgeries for prisoners. And look, I mean, Alex, the conversation is just absurd. Georgia taxpayers should not pay for sex change operations for prisoners. They don't want to do it. The fact that prisoners think that taxpayers should pay for their surgeries is absurd to me. This case is very similar to the Tennessee case called Scarametti, that said that the state can ban transgendered surgeries for minors, that's well within the state's rights. So that's what Georgia has basically said. We don't believe that's something that should be done. I think it's absurd, and I am prepared to take it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court if need be.
You kind of just beat me to the punch. I had a few other questions, but one of them was about how the Supreme Court has been friendly to state laws that do ban various transgender surgeries or procedures, or I believe with Scarametti, it was even medication or hormone treatment for transgender youth. So I was going to ask you a little bit, is that the leading precedent here? Like how to compare that to your case? And then also, you mentioned going to the Supreme Court. I was going to ask you a little bit about, my understanding is the district court did stay this law. Has the 11th Circuit lifted that stay, or could you go to the Supreme Court while this is all playing out on the merits to see about whether the injunction could be, lifted so the state can go ahead and begin enforcing its law?
The 11th Circuit has not lifted the stay. So this is critically important for us, and Alex, I think too, when you think about, yes, Tennessee and Scarametti is the legal underpinnings for what we're doing and why we believe we can do this. But I think it's also important to remember that this line of cases is in a series of cases where we have had to fight back against Biden era policies and liberal judges that are trying to tell the states that we need to do things that are not constitutional. There's no constitutional right for a prisoner to get a sex change operation. There's no constitutional right for a prisoner to have it paid for. But this goes back to men and women's sports. We had to fight the judges on that. We win. We go to federal court. We prevail. Then we've got transgender surgeries for minors and hormone blockers and the whole thing. We go to court. We prevail there. It's the same line. This is within the state's purview to be able to do this. And, the other side will argue it's an Eighth Amendment right, and this and that and the other. We say that's junk science. We think that this is activism. And under the Biden years, courts were agreeing with them. You're getting some liberal courts and liberal judges that were doing that. But fortunately, President Trump on day one signed executive order doing away with a lot of the nonsense. But here we in the state of Georgia, we have said we do not want taxpayer dollars going to providing transgender surgeries for prisoners, and we're willing to fight for it.
Mm-hmm. Has there ever been an argument for transgender plastic surgery to be paid for by taxpayers? I was wondering if that's ever been a case, because it kind of reminds you of the same, I guess, similar arguments trying to change their appearance.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I haven't heard that there has been one, but I think at the end of the day, it all comes back to the same thing. If an adult wants to pay for something on their own, that's their business, but not having state dollars go to changing their gender. I mean, that is just not where the state of Georgia is. We've got a law that prohibits, again, transgender surgeries and hormone blockers. We've defended that. And here what we're saying is, again, with adult prisoners, they don't have a constitutional right to it. We just don't believe tax dollars should go to pay for transgender surgeries.
And you're not alone. It's my understanding, I think there's 21 other states that are supporting your position. at the 11th Circuit. One of my questions was, I think they're arguing that the district court kind of inserted itself into medical and policy debate, which judges aren't really the ones to decide. It should be up to the people through their elected officials and the legislature, like you mentioned. Have those other states that I'm talking about, do they have similar laws on the books, and how have courts been treating those?
Yeah, they do. And in fact, Indiana and Idaho, and I don't remember exactly where they are, but they're also have similar laws to ours. And I think they're at the circuit court level as well. But there are other states. And again, this should be in the purview of the legislature. If a state legislature wants to debate this and discuss it and have experts come and testify, but this is not the purview of the courts. And unfortunately, we've seen too many activist courts, activist federal judges, like we had. Unfortunately, we just disagree strongly with the district court here in Georgia, but we feel that our arguments are sound both legally as well as factually as we take this case forward. But again, like I said before, we're not afraid to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court if need be.
And I know getting to the Supreme Court, usually they look for circuit splits. So has a circuit court ruled on this quite yet? Or like you mentioned, Idaho, maybe Indiana, I think you said, like, are they still waiting for rulings too? So we really don't know is there no circuit court ruling on this yet?
Waiting for, my understanding is we're waiting for the rulings. We hope that we all prevail, but if there's a circuit court split, then it goes to the Supreme Court, and that would increase the chances. But we think, look, this is just a very important issue. We think that if we do not prevail, any one of us, if we don't, this is an issue that the Supreme Court needs to take up. The issue of taxpayer funding for social activism that really, shocks the conscience for a lot of us states and for a lot of our constituents, we think is critically important.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the things. My last question was going to be, what's at stake should, you lose this case? Like what could happen? What does that mean for taxpayers? But I also want to ask you, I always like to say, my final question is, what did I not ask you that I should have? Or is there any misconception out there, in news coverage you've seen about the case, or even in the lower court opinion that you want to correct?
Nothing on that front. I think what's interesting is what our path in the 11th Circuit is. So we've got our briefing is due April 3rd. Then we're hoping for oral argument. And I just don't know where the other cases are on their track, but I do think that's going to be interesting to follow Indiana, Idaho, us, and see where all this kind of goes. But it's coming up for us, and we look forward to oral argument. And like I said, we think we've got a very strong legal and factual case.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you want to win, so I'm talking about future here, but it could be, I guess, if there's circuit splits, that this issue ends up before the Supreme Court next term, which would mean that we keep getting these transgender issues. It seems like every year I'm covering something, whether it's the Bostock case or Skermeti and now maybe prisoners.
Well, this is the fallout of the 4 years from the Biden administration. Again, I go back. Who your president is matters. And we need Congress to step in and make sure that we, pass the laws that need to be passed, address the issues that need to be addressed. These are some very important issues. It would be great for Congress to step in and make sure that they're doing what they need to do, but also respecting the fact that we, the states, do have the authority over certain issues. And again, Skermeti says the states can ban, surgeries and for minors, transgendered surgeries for minors. We think this line of cases is the exact same thing.
Yes. So we'll see what those judges on the circuit courts do, if they follow the Supreme Court precedent or not. I'll be watching closely. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Court Watch. If you have not subscribed yet to this podcast, please do so, and also feel free to email me interesting questions or topics that you want explored about the legal reporting world. I'll do my best to answer them during each episode. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Listen to my podcast, Court Watch, at WashingtonTimes.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.